And his opponent in the bottom left into the red for the Shopify Rebellion, ByuN.
And he has gone gas first. He's going to go for a 1-Rax expand. This is something that we do not see often in this matchup anymore. And there's a few reasons for that. One, of course, it's risky. It's risky against a proxy 2-Rax Reaper, especially that 14-14 proxy 2-Rax Reaper. It is a problem. It's not quite a build order loss in the sense that you're guaranteed to die, but you're looking at a really uphill battle. And the other thing is that if it is this more standard barracks gas that RyunG has gone for, it's very difficult to secure a scout with an SCV scout. You can get double supply depot blocked, and then you don't know if there's a second barracks behind this wall. Things get very complicated trying to figure out exactly what your opponent has gone for. You assume a factory expand, but you're not guaranteed to know about that.
Yeah, on the flip side, though, there's a good reason, as you said, that this barracks gas factory expand idea that we do see RyunG going for is the meta, right? It is defensive against proxy Reaper. It gives some aggressive options against what ByuN is doing. But on the flip side, it is very middle of the road. And as there is already a Reaper done here, assuming ByuN does not take the bait on the SCV, and he will not, actually he's gonna get the first shot off anyways. Oh wait, no, he didn't. But I'm not sure how much it matters because SCV is gonna get traded 1-for-1 here. The low ground will be delayed for now. But Steadfast, ByuN, out of anyone in StarCraft, is the master of the Reaper. And he will hold. The natural does complete faster. And ByuN, he's got himself a nice little lead in the early game.
He sure does, and he is playing this a little bit greedily, not dropping a bunker yet on the low ground. That is something you kind of have to relegate yourself to when you're going for this opener. But not only did he not build that bunker, he kills his opponent's SCV and kept the SCV building the command center alive. So not only is he up 1 SCV in that resource is lost, he is up. It doesn't have his command center delayed at all, and that is going to pull him ahead by 1 or 2 SCVs over the next couple of minutes. Now we are going to see an aggressive move from ByuN, very, very bold. He ends up trading a Reaper for a Hellion, losing that Hellion but killing one of his opponent's Reapers. That was risky to be on the map at that timing, but he manages to disengage just before the next round of units for RyunG shows up, and he's going Cloak Banshee. This is crazy.
Yeah, such an interesting setup here. But here's the thing, right now it's 2 Reapers, 2 Hellions. There's nothing here, and that is 1 shot. So so 1 SCV has gone down. We're gonna have to see just how much happens here. But now, okay, there we go. The Marine, the double Hellion. This should be able to hold off at least long enough until the Banshee is there. 2 SCVs will pay that price. But again, the orbital is done for ByuN. He can build 2 SCVs at a time. And it's not a massive eco lead. It's 2 SCVs. In TVT, the double mule, the 2 SCV lead, that is something.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice. He did still take a little bit of equalizing damage, losing 2 workers right there, and that helps make up for the disadvantage that he kind of suffered. ByuN will have his Banshee scouted, and that's kind of a disaster. RyunG does have the Cyclone. He'll have the Raven. And we're going to see in short order why you don't really go Cloak Banshees in this matchup if ByuN continues to push. Okay, he will pull back. Wise decision. He's still going double Banshee, though. I think the play... Oh, man, this is just so brutal that that Banshee was scouted. I think the play is to maybe just hold these till, like, the mid-game and just hide them on the map somewhere. But the thing is, we're probably even going to see Vikings out of RyunG eventually, so I really just don't see these Banshees being able to get value unless RyunG makes a pretty big mistake.
There's always, as you said, maybe put him on the middle of the map, find something, do the unexpected thing is always the theory. You do the thing that is suboptimal and no one ever expects of. I'm just going to dive in now. Where is the Raven from RyunG? It should be still in the main base, I think. At the very least... Oh, ByuN is... Okay, yeah, he will delay the command center just a little bit. Wait a minute. Where is this Raven? Okay, there it is. But wait, there's not any anti-air.
He had
wait,
a second one.
All the Marines, they're going down steadfast. The Ravens don't matter if there's nothing to shoot the Oh, there we go. Never mind, Cyclone. My bad.
I mean, even still, he lost a ton of Marines right there. 8 Marines for the Banshee. Now, the Cyclone will be able to pin this Banshee in the top right. Oh, is he going to be... Actually, no, he's not quite in position. Will get into the natural expansion. Oh, RyunG trying to set up and get a seeing eye lock on, so to speak. Honestly, this Banshee is doing so much more than I expected, but it will finally go down. Gets a killing blow on that last Marine. 10 Marines, 2 SCVs for 2 Cloak Banshees. That is way more than I expected this to get done. Not a lot of economic damage, but they trade out against the units, and ByuN's going to be happy with that, I think.
Yeah, especially considering that that was scouted. And of course, RyunG had a Raven on the way anyways, even before the Banshees were scouted. But even still, the Raven tech was scouted by, the Banshee tech was scouted by RyunG, as he's now going to move out on the map just a little bit. Couple tanks of Cyclone. It looks like his army is mech, but it's not. He just has no Marines left after the Banshee play. But ByuN already sieged up here. He's going to be in a good spot. It's going to be really hard to make something happen. What do we have in the main base? I guess Raven harass. A couple SCVs are going to go down, but he will trade the Raven in exchange. But if he gets 5-6 SCVs, maybe it's worth it. Maybe.
I mean, he's going to be at that's pretty good. He's going to be at a massive deficit in terms of utility in these fights, though, because since there was the commitment to Banshees and he loses that Raven, it's 2 Ravens to 0, and there's a Viking lead for RyunG. And that is huge in these early game TVT fights. You cannot overstate how big air superiority is in these situations. And of course, the interference matrices, the auto turrets could be huge. Now, big scan from ByuN almost gets that Raven with the Cyclone's lock on. So that's the kind of move ByuN kind of needs to make. Supplies are somewhat deceiving, because the Ravens can be such a huge swing of momentum in these fights. It is also worth noting, by the way, that they finished their NG base at almost the same time, but RyunG started his double upgrades probably, about 10, 20 seconds earlier?
Yeah, something like that. The other thing, you talk about how scary these Ravens are. It's true. It's still, if you have like 3 tanks as the Terran, it's still hard to push in. And ByuN was at 5, so you disable a couple. Again, still hard to find your way into that position. So ByuN will hold. The scary timing where the Ravens dominate everything is kind of over. What I think is really interesting, though, is ByuN only just now getting into medevacs. He was not building anything from his starports for quite a while as that push from RyunG was happening, which means RyunG is going to have even medevac counts, even healing on his army, but he's just doubling up the Viking count. He's going to have so much air positioning lead over these mid-game fights, which may or may not matter. In the mid-game, we see Vikings matter a little bit less. It's the early and the late game where they are the most important, but there we go, Steadfast. Exactly 10 seconds. You had it.
And I kind of like the fact that RyunG has not been focusing on Marines. He's saying to himself, you know what? I like positioning, and I like big, powerful units. I like Vikings, I like tanks, I like Ravens, and I like upgrades. You know what I don't care for too much? For now, Marines. He's not utilizing his production to its fullest for these Marines, and that is on purpose. He is focusing on additional infrastructure, that second factory faster, the 4th command center faster, the double upgrades faster. He did forget his combat shields, which is a big problem, but I don't think he's going to get punished for it. And in fact, it may have been a decision not to get that. Of course, it does open him up to a bit of a timing, but he's probably confident with that extra Raven energy that he doesn't need to worry about it.
Yeah, somewhat sneakily, though, RyunG did go for that earlier tech, sure. ByuN has opened up a fairly significant supply lead. Now, most of it is in the economy. He's looking at 88 SCVs to 74, and army supply leads matter less in TVT, to be totally frank. Tanks are just so dominant that unless you catch an army unsieged, having 5 extra Marines, 10 extra Marines, probably not going to matter as much as it would as you might think. But even still, 4th bases are on the way. We're moving into a solid late game here. And now, oh no, ByuN, you got to be very careful here.
We've got double starport already coming down from RyunG. He has been playing this so in such a cool way. Like, you look at the production tab, it feels like he's never built more than 5 Marines at a time, despite the ability to build 9 or 10. We are going to see a big move coming in from RyunG, or from ByuN, I should say. He gets into a great position with his tanks. RyunG was not expecting this, and it does draw the Vikings out of defensive position. And now ByuN is going to try and boost up into the main base, but RyunG really turtling up with these turrets should be able to prevent the drop from mostly unloading. Oh, he just barely gets past with that second medevac. Will be able to pick off a good number of SCVs. Meanwhile, these tanks are grabbing a good position on the front. RyunG has not been able to take advantage of this this Raven setup, and in fact, he's lost one of those Ravens. I'm really liking his position for ByuN right now.
Yeah, he's given up on this. Preemptively pulling the SCVs away, lifting the command center just to make sure it doesn't take insane damage. 8 SCVs have died in this game where already ByuN had an eco lead. Now he's gonna look to stim on in here. The tanks, the Marines are out of position though. He doesn't get a single one. So many Marines die. ByuN, if he sits there like half a second longer, 3 tanks die, but instead he doesn't get a single one, trades away a lot of that supply lead. And I think now with the Liberators hitting the field, he should get forced back.
Yeah, this is a cool maneuver. I really like these Liberators right here. It is worth noting as well that faster 2-2 for RyunG was very beneficial. I don't know that these Liberators are covered by the tanks, but ByuN isn't going to risk it. He's going to just back off a little bit. There is still this one tank that's in range, but the Cyclone will be able to take down the Liberator. Nice job right there by ByuN. RyunG, he still can't mine from this base, and that is becoming a problem. ByuN's on 88 workers. He is building an additional extra command centers for a ton of more scans and mules in the late game. He's on mass barracks right now. Nice job. Man, this Cyclone, that's 2 kills on Liberators. He's out 1 HP with that Cyclone. That Cyclone was MVP of holding this position right here. He would have had to retreat because he couldn't have killed those Liberators otherwise.
Oh, okay, so he's not going to get this command center that RyunG is trying to take. As again, ByuN looking to shut down the economy of RyunG here. Kind of a similar situation to that Creator Astrea series where one player has a lot more tech. We're seeing RyunG get into Raven tech. He has Sky Dominance. But one army, if this game keeps going as it is the only amount of army that RyunG will be able to make. He will not have a Remax, whereas ByuN is owning the map. He's on 5 bases right now as he looks to move in once again the tank siege, and that means all the Marines are going down. ByuN looking to stim on forward here, and the tanks they're falling, but he can't move a little bit too far forward because the tanks, they're disabled. Still though, again, a great trade from ByuN.
Yeah, and once again, denying his opponent's 4th base for such a long time. And RyunG, he utilized all of his Raven energy right there, and all he did was disable the tanks momentarily. Now this Liberator will move up, does kill off one of those tanks, but RyunG needed to secure the position to take this 4th base at minimum with that. He will slowly but surely push ByuN back, but ByuN doing a great job of like reverse leapfrogging his tanks is I guess the best way to say it. And behind this, he's got his own double starport. He's building 4 Vikings at a time. We are going to see, an engagement. ByuN going to set these tanks up on the left side. He might get this command center right here, and that would be a huge pickoff.
Well,
ByuN.
A move, and these tanks are going to go down. We're just going to see the Vikings drop on top, but wait, is it a bait here? Marine stimming on from the right side. All of the Sky Dominance maybe is going to go down, but still, that was so many tanks from ByuN here as he says, hold my Marines, let's go in. And nope, the tank siege. Marines, they were held up into the sky because they're all dead. That was a pretty big missed opportunity right there for ByuN. If he kills that 5th command center, RyunG's in a lot of trouble. As it is, he might still be able to get it here. RyunG is trying to hold. He doesn't stim because he has no energy on his medevacs, and his Marine HP is so low. And in fact, he only has the 1 medevac. RyunG is so close to being broken, but also very close to coming back in a big way in this game. Huge mistake with the Vikings right there. Loses 4 of them, does ByuN. That is a really unfortunate loss, and that's going to mean the Ravens of RyunG will continue to grab value here. And yeah, the fact that RyunG's going to be allowed to build this 5th command center is huge. Oh, but ByuN will find this original 4th base. It has been flying for so long, it's on max energy. And that was actually the 3rd, so that's an orbital, which means less scans, which are so important in late game TVT. You need vision to make sure you know where things are as the Raven will go down. Nice little snap down there from ByuN, as this drop should finally get cleaned up. But wait a minute, ByuN actually has 3-3 versus 2-2. We see how powerful that one is as his Marines not really dying all that quickly. And 14, 16 Marines at a time here from ByuN. Again, just leaning into the money. He did go double starport. He does have the ability to do that, but instead he's using the extra starports, Steadfast, to build more medevacs.
Yeah, initially he tried to go for the Viking superiority. I think he's got it now, and he's like, okay, well, I just need to keep the pressure on you. Even though you've secured this 4th base, I've denied, well, I mean, secured the 5th base, I've denied your 4th, which turns the 5th into the 4th, and the Liberators won't be able to hold any longer. Oh, ByuN, that's 2 Vikings once again going down. Gotta be a little bit more careful with these Vikings, but he is still in such a solid position. RyunG was not able to afford his +3 weapons, so he is now on 2-3 versus 3-3. ByuN, will drop on top of one of these tanks here. Not going to be able to get this other one. Almost gets it with a friendly fire, but he's going to move forward into the Marines. Anti-armor missile will force them back, though, as that is -3 armor and really makes up for an upgrade disadvantage.
That it does. I can't say I like the way ByuN's playing right now. RyunG's going to look to stem on and take advantage of the minus armor once again. There's no way ByuN takes this fight. The concave beats the convex. ByuN is forced back. But every time these fights happen, you look at the supply again and you realize that even if RyunG is taking a better trade, it's only about 2,000 resources differential. So ByuN continues to mine more and mine more and mine more. He's up 2 bases on his opponent right now. He's denying the 4th base or I guess the 5th base from mining once again. And he's adding more starports. I guess eventually now he's got to go into Ravens, even as he's been really reticent to do so.
Yeah, I think, oh my good, he's lost so many Vikings to these Marines. Good job for, oh my goodness, wow. That is a huge doom drop.
But it doesn't matter. He's got it out of position. RyunG is not where he needs to be. We're going to see 1 medevac goes down, but the Marines, they're already where they need to be here. So, okay, you got to drop that last medevac, ByuN. Please do that for me. It's going to go into the, it's a scouting medevac. It's going to go to the natural, trying to force RyunG out of position, I guess. And now the entire army of ByuN is going to get boxed in by RyunG. But it looks like he can find his way back out. And that medevac, we got to drop in the 3rd base as well. ByuN is just swarming in this game number 1.
He's doing a great job here. He actually supply blocked RyunG, killing as many depots as he has. How many depots did he kill? We got 2 more starports. ByuN is going up to 7 starports, finally getting a fusion core. And look at these landed Vikings in a sweet spot right here, but will get taken out by the Citizens Arrest SCVs. These tanks almost getting the kill on this command center, and I think ByuN might just stim for the kill, but the anti-armor missile pushes him back. We see the power of these late game Ravens. RyunG has been, it feels like he's been dead on his feet for minutes now, but he has stayed alive because of the Ravens and because of that small tech advantage.
Yeah, Steadfast, we're on 7 starport for ByuN right now. I know you said more, but I think we need to point out just how many starports that is. But he's using them to build like 5 medevacs at a time. We're not seeing that tech transition. I keep expecting the way late game tends to go. You see Vikings and Ravens and Liberators and maybe battlecruisers, depending on how the game goes. Again, 7 starport medevac is the way that ByuN wishes to play this game, I guess. But it's working for him because he is swarming. He has a massive eco lead. He's sitting here mining almost double what RyunG is. That 3rd base is not going to get taken anytime soon. And now the Bio's going to look to stem on over. 1 tank and a planetary is not enough to keep this thing alive. The repair's not even there. RyunG's economy is in the absolute dumpster, and he's going to try to make something happen here. ByuN's army a little bit overstimmed, but he does have that upgrade lead. 1 tank still firing. RyunG going for the last fight. And it is the last fight because he falls. And ByuN takes game 1.
Damn, that was... We talk about ByuN stylistically and how he loves to just constantly attack. That was him attacking. You might have noticed that the camera really didn't show ByuN's side of the map for the majority of that game. That's because the action was on RyunG's side of the map basically after like minute, 4 or 5? That was so much time dedicated to that.
Yeah, no, ByuN is one of these players that is okay. So backing up a second, we can define Terrans in maybe a couple different stylistic groups. You have system Terrans. Think like a Hero Marine who has one build over and over again. He's going to execute it near perfectly. You're going to beat it or you're not. And it's maybe a little bit more defensive. Think like Maru in the late game, maybe. And then we have players like ByuN, who maybe they'll float a little bit of minerals in the mid game. At one point, we saw ByuN as RyunG was pressuring. He had 800 minerals in the bank that he wasn't really able to spend. But his multitasking is so gosh darn good that he puts so much pressure on the map that even these system Terrans that want to play more defensively, RyunG had like 3 missile turrets around his third base before he took his fourth. Despite that, he just finds these small holes in the way these defensive Terrans want to play and just cuts them apart.
It is worth noting, by the way, that style won't work on every map for ByuN. If he tries that on Blackburn, he's going to get bopped. Now, I don't think he's going to play that on Blackburn, but I have to assume Hardwire was his map pick. And if I had to guess, based on how RyunG wants to play this, and if ByuN knows that RyunG wanted to play this way, I'm going to guess that probably Blackburn and Pride of Alteris were the vetoes for ByuN. I'm going to guess that, I think we'll see Berlingrad maybe as the second map. Because I would assume that that would be let through. But it's still relatively close together. It's hard to fly by. There's not a lot of areas you can doom drop into the main base. Okay, it's actually going to be 2K Atmos. Okay. That's still a map where you can do kind of what ByuN was doing in game number 1. So if RyunG looks to play the same style that he did with a heavy cutting of marine production in order to get mass tech and really, really skip towards that late game, I think he's setting himself up for a bit of pain by going into 2K Atmos for this next game.
I mean, you say that, but I have absolutely seen ByuN play that style that we expect. Go into late game, mass Viking. I feel like as much as ByuN game 1 was this game where ByuN set himself up for this ultimate late game that he never really needed, that was a tempo build. That was a tempo idea because he understood just how far ahead he was. In a more even game, for example, I do think we see ByuN make that transition. I've seen him do it. He is at home in the 30 Vikings and 2 Marines game that late game TVT devolves into. So I don't think that saying, oh, he's setting himself up for some pain here in 2K Atmos, I don't think that's quite accurate.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think we're probably going to see more likely a more standard transition. It seems a little bit unlikely, yeah, to see anything different. Because it's unlikely that ByuN is going to be able to get that kind of lead and keep pushing it. It's Hardwire is so much easier to attack into those bases, though. 2,000 atmospheres, it's still kind of tricky to attack into the 4th base if those rocks are still up, if RyunG has good tank positioning, if he has those sensor towers up. It's both easier and still difficult to defend, you know?
That it is. On the flip side, maybe there's a little bit more dead airspace that you can find your way in the edges than, say, a Hardwire that is so narrow. All I know is, in general, 2,000 atmospheres is by far the most standard map. And standard maps give us longer games. That last game was truly excellent. So if we have another map that is here, that is prepared to give us a standard long game, well, that means that we're in for a good time.
I think so. I am ready for this one. Will ByuN close it out, or are we going to see a game number 3? Let's get right into it. 2K Atmos is the map.
That it is. Steadfast. I am excited. I am. So many things. As game number 2 is ready now, let's get into it.
Here we go, spawning up at the top right. Representing the Shopify Rebellion. Give it up for ByuN.
And his opponent in the bottom left in the blue, looking to tie things up and send us to an ace match for Team GP, RyunG.
And ByuN, he's going for another gas first. I think he's going to go one racks expand once more. This is a map that's even more defensible since there's no jump-in points at the natural expansion. In terms of the natural ramp, it's actually just these two locations. You can supply depot block the bottom one, and then you just have to worry about this location. I think ByuN's going to go with another somewhat greedy build, and RyunG, he is the kind of player who's very confident in his late game. We saw him pushing super hard towards that. It seems as though ByuN is very confident that RyunG's not going to proxy 2-racks him, and so far he's been correct. I like this move.
Yeah, if I was to put a moniker to how if I was to compare the way RyunG was playing to any other player, that game one looked Maru-like. Not in the fact that he won or lost, but in that emphasis on the TVT late game, where you move and you get Ravens and you kind of turtle up and you acknowledge that the mid game is not where TVT is won or lost for the most part. Now, we did see ByuN take an advantage in the mid game where he was able to carry it, but in general, that is the thing that Maru likes to do. Although maybe it's more that Maru learned to do this because RyunG is the master of all build orders in Korea. I do like what ByuN is doing here, though, by taking that command center on the high ground, removing the one threat spot that he's going to have to deal with by going for this greedier expand build, because he's really not going to take much of anything.
The one thing I will say is that this kind of mitigates the advantage. You know, you build this command center on the high ground. It does take a little while to float over. It's a very small advantage of going for this 1-racks expand. You don't get things a whole lot faster. And in fact, hang on, RyunG,
same thing.
Oh, he went one racks expand as well. He just did it. I didn't even notice that he didn't build a second gas. I'm so used to seeing 1-racks expand with a gas first. So RyunG actually takes the build order advantage, I would say, pretty significantly. It's funny, by the way, to note that neither of them is scouted. Neither of them is scouted here. And we're going to be seeing reactor Hellions out of ByuN. This is kind of nifty. He's got that quick tech lab. It should be Ravens or Cyclones, but there is the 5% chance, or maybe even lower, that it could be Marauders.
So Steadfast.
No, it's now 0.
You're telling me you just listed almost every single unit that comes out of a tech lab production building. Top tier casting right there. You list everything that might happen, and then you're never wrong. But this is pretty cool. With 4 Hellions and a Reaper, that's not the normal setup you see. It's often, 2 Hellions, 3 Reapers, 3 Reapers, 2 Hellions, something like that. Wait, he's going up to that. He's going up to 6 Hellions.
It is a lot. That's a lot of Hellions. And this second tech lab should be for the Cyclone follow-up, I would assume. I can't imagine at this point he would go for Marauders, because he'd probably want a medevac. I mean, there is theoretically that, but I feel like I'm pushing this Marauder idea. I really don't believe that he will. And yeah, there's that swap coming on down. This is a lot of Hellions, though. It's a lot of Hellions, and it feels like you definitely want to go for a run by. It will work very well defensively as well. And the cool part of this is that Hellions don't cost gas, so your tech is pretty far along. And a great scout from RyunG. He sees the Hellion count, and then it just gets out of the main base, gets a bit of information, sees the whole setup of his opponent. I mean, it's not going to tell you that much. You know that it's going to be a 1-1-1 basically in this matchup. But this is still good information for RyunG, knowing that ByuN has gone for all of those Hellions.
Steadfast, is there a world... we're only on 3 gas right now, so probably not. But is there a world where ByuN leverages this into mech in this game? You're spending only minerals. You're not spending any gas on things early. But I guess he's reactoring out Marines, so probably not. Although mech has become more popular in this matchup in general.
I don't think so. Mostly because ByuN just doesn't like mech. He likes the ability to constantly be attacking his opponent, and he is just going to leverage this gas for extra Ravens here. A lot of tanks. He ends up... So he uses these Hellions to skip Cyclones, which is an interesting way to go about it. That's kind of the advantage that he's getting, and he is able to get up to a lot of Ravens. 3 Ravens is going to be a big number right here. RyunG going for 2 and going to start up his Viking production a little bit faster. But I don't know. This is an interesting setup here, and it will be that bio play, unsurprisingly. RyunG's a little bit ahead economically, though. And it's going to be up to ByuN to get something done with those extra Ravens, or extra Raven.
A little bit ahead of economically, but I'd say soon to be a lot ahead economically. His third base is turning into an orbital right now. ByuN is not even done. So in the game where nothing has happened, RyunG has the better read. It seems like, honestly, in general, even as RyunG lost that game 1, it feels like RyunG understands the matchup better. Yes, ByuN is fast as hell, and he is multitasking is out of this world. That's not a matchup understanding question. That is a pure mechanics and skill question, and game reading to some extent. So, again, we're seeing this in this game too, when it's been much more passive in the early game. RyunG is just finding every little advantage.
Yeah, and I like the way that he plays this. ByuN is pulling ahead a little bit in supply, but once again, that doesn't necessarily mean much in the mid game. And RyunG understands that it's okay to have these barracks not producing units all the time if you are getting something that advances you into the later stages. And in this case, it is a nice sensor tower, but what this sensor tower does not show is that there is a big push. Now, this Hellion, oh my, that might have been a game-saving Hellion right there for RyunG, but he's still going to have trouble rotating back in. We will see the tank getting disabled. RyunG dropping a ton of auto turrets, but not all of them are in range of even these tanks. One tank does go down, and another one as well as RyunG oh my god, actually he's going to clear up all of ByuN's tanks. So that Hellion will end up being a very, very useful Hellion. We do see the Hellions of ByuN, though. They were left in reserve, kind of left as an afterthought. They come in and get 15 SCVs.
They get, I think, about 8 SCVs, actually. We notice both players spam their auto turrets everywhere, right? And RyunG spammed all his auto turrets on top of the tanks, and ByuN forced him back. ByuN dropped about 4 auto turrets right around the mineral line and got a bunch of workers right there as well, which did explain why he didn't win the fight. In fact, where did the Raven count? Actually, 2-2. One player lost a Raven each. But again, we see RyunG, he's dominating the air in the early game. It's 8 Vikings to 2, which means it's going to be harder for ByuN to get aggressive again.
Yes, exactly. It's very difficult to get aggressive. Now, this time, he does have the ability to make those plays with the Ravens. He didn't have, I believe he didn't have any after the early game because he was 1-2, and he lost his Raven very quickly. Now we are going to be seeing a drop coming on in to the right side, maybe looking to try and deny a very early 4th command center, but I mean, the 4th command center is being built in a more careful location. This is not Gumiho. This is not an insane person who builds his command centers on location, you know, every single time. Fortunately for ByuN, he is going to catch up in these upgrades. Armory was a little bit better timed. RyunG was under heavy pressure. Little skirmish coming on down. Will go in the favor of ByuN. RyunG kind of getting caught a little bit unprepared.
Yeah, I like what ByuN is doing here on this map. We talk about vision, we talk about controlling space. ByuN has units on both Xel'Naga towers. He has such a good understanding of where RyunG is playing that he's taking his 4th base on location, which almost never happens. But ByuN's a madman. He has map pressure in game 2 the same way he did in game number 1, and that allows him to go do that. But again, RyunG, his 2-2, slightly faster. And most importantly, actually, he's going to have tank upgrades that his opponent has not invested into.
Yes, the power of and once again, look at this. 2nd factory quite quickly, very quick. 2nd and 3rd starport. RyunG is loving this let me get to the late game as soon as possible style, and it's really cool to see. This is a map where I think sensor towers are a lot more beneficial defensively. So it's going to be more difficult for ByuN to try and catch his opponent out of position. Hardwire a very, very open map. This is still a map where you can make plays on the 4th and 5th base. But like I said earlier, the defensive posture around these rocks is going to be more difficult to crack through. So this is a situation where RyunG is probably going to be able to do what he was looking to do more effectively than game number 1.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, but ByuN, he's found a way in the middle. There are no tanks sieged up here, so he's going to get on top of things, but there we go. Armor Shredder means that these Marines cannot really fight. It's high ground to low ground, and with the air advantage that RyunG still has, ByuN, he's forced back here. He thought he found an opening. Not quite. But This is ByuN. He doesn't have one army. He has two. He has three. They're all over the map, all trying to do things not quite at the same time, but close enough. But Steadfast, I want to cycle back to what you were saying earlier about RyunG going into the late game. There's been times when we've seen Terran players, Mario in particular, who when he's behind, he just skips the mid game. He turtles straight into the late because he says, I need to get there anyways. I'm not going to try to max out then do that because that's foolhardy. I think it's interesting here that we're seeing RyunG take that idea a step further and say, in an even game, in a game I'm ahead, well, that's what I want to do anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. He says, I don't want to fight you in a situation where we're constantly throwing units at each other. I want to fight you in a situation where I can outposition you. I can outscout you. I can outdecide you. That is the game that he wants to be playing. And ByuN, he is going to be looking to deny this now. A little bit weird from ByuN right here. He kind of boosts his medevacs slightly through the sensor tower range. There was really no reason to do that. And he ends up getting forced back in the main base. Maybe he scanned and saw the location of the turrets, but I feel like he could have gone around it and then done a quick U-turn sort of. Ooh, meanwhile, we do have a double drop from RyunG, denying the 5th base from ByuN. Nice job right there by RyunG.
Yeah, we're going to say we have a game where ByuN has not quite as much of an equal lead as he did game 1, which is true. But on the flip side, 3CCs on the way as RyunG stemming on and try to break this position, but one tank goes down, the other one does not. And ByuN still holds this. It's actually not doing anything. It's not even really denying gas, but well, I guess it is denying gas. But what it's doing is it's that pressure. It's that presence at the back of RyunG's head where he's like, look, there are tanks on the high ground. They're sieging me up. If I make a mistake, if I don't have things where I need to be, I'm going to be in big trouble. It's not doing anything now, but the very presence there can potentially lead to mistakes later on.
That is exactly what he's going to be looking to force out. Now, we are seeing both players going up into double armory. Both of them going up into the 5 starport setup. ByuN a little bit quicker to the draw. Will he go up to 7 starports again? I kind of hope not, because last game was one where he had that gigantic economic lead. This time doesn't have it quite as much. You really can't make use of that effectively unless you're leaving 3 of them add-ons. I don't know how else to say that, but without add-ons.
Unaccompanied. Sure.
Unaccompanied. There we go. Fly in solo.
Unaccompanied barracks. There we go. We got a drop coming on in here, and missile charge are going to get one of it. RyunG, he's going to actually lose both. The Vikings are here. How many Marines get out? Looks like it's going to be 2. Vikings should be able to deal with that one, but RyunG, he's got a positioning advantage here. He's going to try to siege up the 4th base of ByuN. And there's actually not a lot here, but it's only tank Steadfast. There are no Marines to buffer, so theoretically, oh, wait a minute, but okay, no. Armor Shredder's going to do things to knock that down for now. And RyunG, he's been moving here further. He's been moving here quicker, so it's 6 Ravens to 4, 12 Vikings to 11. We're going to see some orbitals be forced to get lift as they start to burn. But ByuN's going to get another base. He says, okay, you put pressure on me. I'll knock down your 5th base as well, and that's a death, not just a move.
Yeah, and this planetary fortress should be able to hold for quite a long time. ByuN does have the ability to eventually come back in on this. He gets 2 Ravens, almost a 3rd. Very nice move with these 3/3 Marines from ByuN. And this is what ByuN does. Oh, he's got to pull more SCVs to heal this. This is not well, actually, I guess it's only 2 tanks. Oh, but he still might lose this. This is kind of close. It is dropping in health.
Okay, there we go. He pulls more?
Yeah, he pulls. Okay. Yeah, there we go. That's enough. That's enough now.
Steadfast, you said he killed 2 Ravens. No, he killed 7. They all went down.
My God.
We have more on the field now, but RyunG briefly went down to 1 Raven on the field. So these Ravens are not going to have nearly as much energy as they might otherwise be. But even still, the Ravens are back on the field. ByuN, though, he has the Viking deficit just slightly, but he has a big Raven lead. And these tanks, honestly, they're all just sieged up here. They are ripe for the pickings. ByuN sees it now. Auto turrets dropping down. Yes, never. Not enough auto turrets. Not enough energy.
They died so fast. They died so fast. He only dropped 2 and they did nothing. Oh, this is going to be RyunG moving forward quite aggressively here. ByuN dropping a lot of auto turrets, but that's stimmed Marines with 3/3. Disable coming in on ByuN's tank. I am really liking the way RyunG is doing this. ByuN going to move forward on the other side, but his army is paltry in comparison on the aggressive front.
Yeah, Steadfast, you said that RyunG wanted to play the positioning game, the decision-making game. That situation where he has played thousands of similar TBTs. Well, he forced his way there, and he is out-positioned, out-might-gamed, and out-decision made. ByuN in this game number 2. Yeah, ByuN killed a base of RyunG. RyunG just lost 2, or ByuN just lost 2. He lost so much of his army. Yes, right now, RyunG has no Ravens, ByuN has 5. But I think at this point, the supply does in fact tell the tale.
Oh, absolutely it does. We look at the Raven count. It is 5. Wait, where? Okay, RyunG has to rebuild Ravens. He lost a lot. Oh, he's lost 8 in this game. Damn. The SCVs do get cleaned up on the right side. RyunG could have killed this command center. He did see it floating there just barely, and he had the Vikings that were uncontested. So a little bit of a missed opportunity right here, but he will find his base on the left side. ByuN going to stim on over here, though, and will cover these SCVs. ByuN is reeling right now. He's in a lot of trouble.
This is not a game that ByuN has played before where he's thrown things away and had the money to rebuild. He doesn't really have that right now, but that is a lot of tanks sieged up. It is 14. Actually, I should even say that RyunG is at 17, but all of ByuN's tanks are together. His armor shredder missile is going to go down on top of the entire air fleet. An air fleet that, for the most part, RyunG has the advantage in anyways, but we got tanks on the flank.
The flank tank.
The flank tank. There we go. And this seems like such a strong siege position here from RyunG as we see ByuN surrounding him, but I guess the surround does not matter because Ravens, they have everything to say about that. The tanks are going to siege up once again, but hey, air vision, high ground vision is a thing. You're not really going to get on top of these right now, and RyunG looking to push on forward. Armor shredder missile, finally ByuN casts one, but I'm not sure how much it really matters because A, +2 armor plating, so the Vikings are better for RyunG, and B, there's just so much on the ground behind it.
Great little move dropping these Marines on top of these tanks of ByuN. He will be able to get at least one of them. Might get a few more. Meanwhile, the air superiority is... Oh, nice job. Drops the interference matrices to shut down a couple of these Vikings. But the Marines of RyunG stim forward. ByuN going to lose a lot of those Vikings. All of them, in fact. And the tanks on the low ground for RyunG doing the work that they need to get done. Now, we will see these 2 Ravens of RyunG that were very low in HP getting picked off. But RyunG just has this air superiority, and he is... It's very small, but he's killing the Vikings as they pop on out. And RyunG has just held this position very effectively. Oh, I love this little move. Doesn't have a range.
No.
Well, I liked it until he dropped in range, like not far close enough to the tank.
Now, the one thing, as we talk about this, I don't think it's going to be enough to change the game. RyunG has spent his entire bank. And technically right now, I guess because of Mules, ByuN is spending a little bit more, as now he's going to try to break out here of his prison on 2,000 atmospheres. But auto turrets, they say no to that. His guards say, back in your cell, ByuN. RyunG, there is nothing that can stop him anymore. Stimming in, auto turreting into the natural. And that is it. GG, folks. We're going to go game 3, Steadfast. Your prediction, it's still alive.
RyunG looked so good in the later stages of that mid game. He looked so sharp with his, just how he positioned. Now, I gotta say, it felt so weird that ByuN didn't. I almost feel like it was like almost a bluff from RyunG with the mass tank on the right side because there was nothing supporting it. And I don't know if ByuN ever scanned that position and saw that there was nothing. He tried to clear it up with a couple auto turrets, but like, it was a very impotent effort. It didn't... He could have dropped, 7, 8 auto turrets and cleared it all up, or he could have dropped, a medevac or 2 medevacs worth of Marines and cleared it all up. But he didn't do so, and that became a constant thorn in his side. It felt like he was expecting more and just over-respected that position, and as a result, RyunG able to take the game, snowball from there.
Yeah, it was interesting, actually. You talk about that. There was a time when ByuN tried to do something about that. He moved his entire air fleet over. He had enough auto turrets to break it, theoretically, but he drops one, it dies immediately, and that's that. And I don't know, maybe ByuN thought he was about to get rotated on, but I think part of that also is, we talked about this in game, it feels like RyunG is just so much better. He's a better comprehensive understanding of TVT and how to read the map. ByuN, if he's aggressive and he is putting pressure on every single of your bases, you're probably going to lose. But that is also how he gains his understanding of the game state and where the map is. That's where his scouting comes from. He doesn't necessarily have to get the soul read or read a lot from less information because he has Marines in your main natural third and he's on top of your army. In this game where he was not able to do that, RyunG had a much better read of what he could and could not get away with. And that means game 3 is going to be on, I believe, Glittering Ashes, right? Yes. The biggest map in the pool. Oh, Steadfast. Gimme that one.
This is, if based on the 2 maps we've seen so far, I don't think you could ask for a better map for RyunG based on how they have played. Each base is so well entrenched and so far away from your opponent, and there are so many bases. I gotta say, I'm really feeling this for RyunG in game number 3. Unless ByuN can identify something, maybe find a weakness in the fact that RyunG has been cutting actual unit production. I don't know. It feels like RyunG had such a more solid grasp on the later stages of that TVT.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, giving you an update elsewhere because I think that is important. RyunG wins this. He qualifies through the upper bracket, I think, because guess who is waiting for him in that qualifying match?
It's Uthermal.
It's Mr. Replacement Man himself, but also RyunG showing this incredible TVT prowess against a player who, as good as Uthermal is, the last time he replaced someone like this, he won the entire damn tournament in 2016. He has not been preparing for Katowice as hard as RyunG or ByuN or one of these players that's known they're qualified. So I think if RyunG wins this series, I think we're seeing one of the oldest players in the scene, at least by years played, qualifying into the round of 24 through the upper bracket, which is insane.
It would be so cool.
And actually,
it would be so cool.
You got to remember, RyunG was also a replacement. I'm sorry, we're taking the story, but RyunG's been prepping. No. He had like maybe 2 additional days on Uthermal to prep.
Yeah, no, these are potentially two replacement players in qualifying matches, and that would be absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. And we are going to get into game number 3. Glittering Ashes for the right to go into the qualifying match. This is a very, very crucial match for both of these players, because you do not want to have to go down to the lower bracket and play a really, really tough couple of opponents who are going to be in desperation mode when you could otherwise find yourself in a qualifying match against a player that I think they're going to be very confident against.
Yeah, remember, Hero, Creator, DRG, these are a Laser, are all in the lower bracket right now. It is not an easy setup. If you're honestly looking at the upper bracket, the side we're at versus looking at the lower, I think the lower bracket is just full of scarier players right now.
That's the word I would use. Yeah, scarier. It looks scarier to me than the upper bracket, 100%.
All right, but Steadfast. We have game 3 here, Glittering Ashes. Let's do the thing. Game 3.
All right, spawning down on the bottom left. Will he find a way to deal with it? It is from Shopify Rebellion. The Red Terran player, ByuN, in the red.
And his opponent in the upper right in the blue, looking to make the run of ages for Team GP. He is RyunG.
And for the 3rd game in a row, ByuN is going to open up Gas First Reaper Expand. It almost feels like he's inviting a Proxy 2 Rax Reaper, you know? It almost feels like he's baiting it from his opponent. I have to wonder if versus Percival, he played very conservatively, and that's why he's doing this in this matchup. I'm curious, because I would assume that RyunG was paying attention and would have tried to figure out what the build orders were.
Well, I wonder how much time they had. I know when Estrella got out of that last series, we tried to get him for an interview, and he was just immediately into pick bans for the next series. And these games are happening roughly concurrently. So RyunG got out of his game, and I believe by the time that RyunG finished his game against Probe, we already had ByuN first of all was already done. So, or had been done for a while. So it wasn't like he got out first and maybe had a little bit of time to watch. What is this SCV doing with, okay, it's just waiting for the Reaper. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, he scouted the fast command center on the low ground. He knows that he's got an opportunity to get something done. ByuN will, ooh, nice defensive grenade right there. Gonna force these units to turn around and buy himself a little bit more time for his own SCV to get down. But he will suffer that first shot, and he eats the grenade as well. This is actually a bit of a problem right here for ByuN. RyunG will end up trading an SCV for an SCV though, and ByuN, yeah, he's gonna be fine. RyunG doesn't know if it's a reactor or not, so he can't really commit in here safely.
Well, he's going to be fine, yes, but his command center will be delayed compared to game number 1, where the command center was not delayed in the slightest. SCV didn't have to get pulled off. It was fine. But now it's actually, wait a minute. This can start to snowball here. It's 2 Reapers to 1. This SCV is going to go down again. ByuN is going to be denied his command center at 90% completion. He's going to have to send another SCV down. Now, though, Hellions are out. ByuN is not going to get broken by what RyunG has. But still, that was a, what would you say, 20-second delay on that early game eco lead?
It's a pretty significant delay. Now, he does make up for it by not building the bunker, but I gotta say, that is some heavy greed, not building that bunker, cutting the second Reaper. If RyunG had been extremely sharp there, maybe he gets couple more SCVs, delays the command center for even longer. Maybe he even, I wouldn't say snowballs the game, but snowballs to the point where, you know, he kills the Reaper with the 2 Reapers, sets up on the low ground, and maybe ByuN can't resecure this location until, at the very least, the 2 Hellions are out, maybe even the 4. I probably not, but things could have really gotten out of hand there very, very easily for ByuN.
Yeah, absolutely. And on top of that, or I guess I should say, the countermeasure to that, really, and the reason that ByuN went for a build like this is Glittering Ashes has by far the longest natural rush distance. So that snowball potential, if you are building your units, whatever they are, Reapers, Hellions, in your main base, as most players do, it's not a proxy, even if you sense the snowball potential, it's going to take you so long to build the unit and send it across the map that by the time the snowball is there, the defensive units are going to be out like they need to. So that's one of the reasons, at least that allows ByuN to stay alive, is this Raven is going to find its way across the map here. The pull is actually going to be a little bit slow, so an SCV goes down before anything. And honestly, if you're ByuN here, as long any value is nice, but knocking down a couple Marines, especially as ByuN's getting active on the map with this, that is actually going to be pretty nice.
Yeah, you know what? I'm actually a little bit worried about this Hellion run by. We saw it in game number 2. You did mention that it was only 8 SCVs going down to it, but if he gets 8 SCVs with it now, at this early stage in the game, that would be gigantic. Now, he is going to be running into tanks and Marines, but he's going to spread up the Hellions a little bit and go for the fight. I think if he was going to do that, you want to get right on top of the tank to prevent that. He tried to split a little bit against the splash damage, but it ended up being not the greatest fight. That was a little bit expensive, a little bit pricey.
Yeah, I think... Actually, I want to point out something that RyunG did in that fight. Notice his units were pretty close right there on the tank. So if you dive on top of the tank, which is valid, as we got a Raven in the main base, knocking out a couple more SCVs. Looks like it was cleaned up, though. Raven's fine, but auto turret went down. We saw RyunG just cluster his units on top of the tank. So you dive on top of the tank, fine. You're not getting those nice shots against the bio. So you maybe kill the tank, probably not. And you don't kill as much bio, or you lose more to it, and you still don't get the tank, but at least you trade out for the bio. So a good move from RyunG. I think that was the proper response from ByuN, and now he understands how hard his opponent is turtling. So third base on location once again.
Yeah, and I like this specifically against how RyunG has been playing. This is a big supply lead, by the way, for ByuN. We talked about RyunG kind of cutting production, but this is kind of this is him cutting a lot of production. It feels like, yeah, because you should not be this far down in supply, considering the fact that in terms of units lost, it's a little bit ahead for ByuN, but not that much. I feel like it shouldn't be a 20 supply lead, you know?
Yeah, and on top of that, ByuN has this Raven lead. So we look at RyunG's defensive capabilities. He's sitting at 4 tanks to the 3 of ByuN, sure. He is up he does have 2 Ravens that have decent amount of energy, but with only 4 tanks, the Ravens should have enough energy to remove at least 3 of them from the field, maybe even 4, which means that this defensive emplacement does not matter. The supply lead will actually matter in this game should ByuN look to take advantage, but for now he's not scanning. In fact, it looks like he just wants to harass with the Ravens once again and not make much happen with that. So auto turrets get dropped, a couple Marines go down. Vikings, ByuN has been doing this entire series. I don't know whether it is command hotkey issue, whatever, but he has, that's a little bit more damage than they expected, where he has lost Vikings to missile turrets and Marines a lot more than I'm used to seeing him do.
Yeah, I gotta wonder if it's a bit of nerves right now, maybe focusing. I mean, he always focuses so much on his Marines. Ooh, nice job from RyunG right here. Going to be able to clean up this little... I mean, the only value unit right there really is the Cyclone. Even then, it's not that valuable in the mid game, but it's still nice little win for RyunG. Yeah, I feel like maybe ByuN focusing a little bit too much on his more basic units, because he does love constantly attacking, loves really getting in his opponent's face, and maybe neglecting the control a little. I don't know, but like you said, I'm not used to seeing that either. I do like this though, coming back home, repairing up these Ravens.
Yeah, you gotta make sure when you have units that they're this expensive, keep them healthy. Oh, nice move here from RyunG. He will force the immediate cancel on the 4th, playing kind of against this idea that he has built of himself of, oh, I'm gonna sit here, I'm gonna turtle. ByuN, you can kind of do whatever you want on your side of the map. I'm gonna take it to the late game. So ByuN was not expecting 16 Marines and 2 medevacs to stim on over, delay the 4th base. And now RyunG. Feels like both players are sitting back here for a moment, so RyunG feels safe enough to take his 4th base on location as well. We're kind of hitting the mid-game doldrums, where neither player really feels that they can break their opponent, so they don't even try.
Yeah, and it's... I think it's a good call for RyunG. For ByuN, I don't know if it's so tough to make an adjustment like this without watching the replay and being like, oh wow, RyunG has been cutting production pretty significantly, like not utilizing his production on purpose in order to get faster infrastructure, faster upgrades, faster starport transition. It's hard to set up for that without seeing it in the replay and making your own response as well. But he's kind of he's getting himself ahead in supply and a little bit it feels like behind in the game. As I say that though, we are going to see a find on his opponent's Raven, will take it down, and a medevac. Does need an armor shredder missile, but that's totally fine. He doesn't need to fight right here. Oh, unless RyunG forces the issue, but that would be a weird move into 3 tanks that are already sieged. And even just some Parthian shots right there, getting some pretty decent damage on those Marines.
Yeah, and especially with those Ravens as well, it's just so hard to push into their disables, their armor shredder missiles, things like that. RyunG actually has got a run by on the bottom side, trying to make sure something happens. A couple SCVs are going down, but what matters here is the fight in the middle of the map. Actually looks like ByuN's just going to take that one too. Waiting everywhere, as now he's going to stim on in. He's got upgrade equals, but the armor shredder's there, which means these Marines, they fight so damn well. 2 tanks will be disabled. The flanking tanks, again, the tank flank is not going to work out here. ByuN, he's stimming on in. 14, 18 SCVs go down. The 3rd base will be broken, and suddenly it's a massive supply gap for ByuN in this game. He wins the army fight. He wins the eco fight. He has his 4th base available. He's mining on 4. And it's going to take a lot of work from RyunG to come back into this position now.
Yeah, this is the kind of move that I was looking for from ByuN, trying to get on top of his opponent in the mid game before that big late game setup came in. And in fact, RyunG did not go for it this time. He did not go for the very quick double starport. He went for very quick barracks. So it's even more confusing that he wasn't well prepared for this. He did have the 2-2 timing, but unfortunately it finished up just about 10 seconds, 5 seconds even, after that fight concluded. And so RyunG wasn't able to take advantage of what he'd really been dedicating to try and, get himself ahead. And now ByuN, he is miles ahead in this game.
Excuse you, Steadfast. We're in Poland, technically, theoretically. It's kilometers ahead. Thank you very much. But now I'm not sure what...
Skiller meters.
Exactly. I'm not sure what unit system matters. It actually doesn't. At the end of the day, it's a large distance that ByuN has that lead, going on up to 5 aces now. Now, the flip side, Glittering Ashes is a very hard map to break. the games don't end until 4 or 5 bases anyways. But ByuN's going to try to make that happen as he has high ground vision. His tank's shelling away. Actually, looks like not quite. Doesn't quite have the vision for it, or I guess the tank that was shelling went down. And RyunG,
he was hitting the sensor tower actually, so it was splashing the tank. Yeah, it's a funny little thing that happens where sometimes having units around you is the worst move. Oh man, yeah, I was gonna say ByuN cannot push up that ramp. And oh god, look at that blood splatter on the ground as he pushes up for even just a moment right there, losing a lot of units. RyunG, he's gonna try and flank around here, but ByuN will check the move and prevents it. Viking's gonna take down a couple of these medevacs, actually gonna get all of them, and that's gonna mean these stimmed Marines are in a bit of trouble. Does turn around to get a couple Vikings, but this is a scary position. I like that ByuN is rotated over, knowing that his opponent is really spread thin right now on army supply. Oh god, oh god, oh god, shift click. Ugh. Okay, gets out of there before that tank was ready to fire. That could have been a lot of dead Marines because they were occupying more space than they're supposed to. Oh my god. Oh. He's got the scan. He might kill 3 tanks if he rescans here. And meanwhile, Liberator does get taken out. Not going to be able to take down this position. If he scans again, he'll kill 2 more tanks.
Yeah, for a second, it felt like RyunG was starting to break his way back into this game. His supplies were starting to equalize. His economy wasn't terrible. But ByuN just has so many tanks in the position where he needs them to be. He's up 3. That being said, RyunG will have an upgrade lead for a little bit, but for right now, it does not matter. ByuN, he's pushing in once again. There is too much DPS. This base is going to go down with the next volley. Yeah, RyunG's got to give that one up. So it is 5 bases to 3. And that last effort of maybe he's able to turtle out a little bit longer. I'm not even sure it is Dennis. Oh, he's got mover advantage. He's going to force RyunG into a fight that he does not want to take. Tanks go down. Tanks for the memories, ByuN is what he says. As now, ByuN stimming in once again, trying to make this game end right here, right now for a date with you Thermal in the upper bracket. But he's going to have to wait for the tanks to catch up. Going to have to wait for them to siege before he can finally press that advantage into an overall victory.
Yes, but it does feel like at this point the victory is inevitable. We are going to see ByuN a little bit late to siege his tanks, and RyunG actually, as a result, will be able to get the first 2 tanks, and he will clear... Oh, actually, no, there was too many Marines. I thought there was a few less Marines for ByuN, but it is just enough to hold position. We do have more units rallying on in. SCVs were pulled into that for RyunG. He was already... Well, he's almost 100 supply behind, and he is going to be forced to tap out. ByuN will take the victory and moves on to face Mark